finally was able to get this NIO for us. But we'll go over that. We'll go ahead and get started and talk about the market, okay? Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for October 2nd, 2019. All right, market just closed here. All right, just settling down. Qs are going to be down 1.7. SPY is going to also be down a little over 1.7. All right, so coming into today, all right, we knew that the hourly downtrend could not break, okay? And so now with the follow through that we've gotten, right, we need to start looking bearish, okay? Now through all of this, I was saying, we need to get follow through. We're a couple setups away from bearishness. We've gotten the follow through, and now going into tomorrow, we will be bearish, okay? We did, I think, a good job for the most part of acknowledging when there was a critical moment in time, right? If you remember last week's video, we identified this was critical here to hold, and it could not hold that. That if we were going to move back up, this was the time to prove itself. Wasn't unable to do so, came in instead, right? And then since then, we have gotten the fallout of that, okay? So on the daily here, we are back into this range, which we identified right from the beginning of this breakout, that if we make it back into this range, that has to be considered bearish, because we're now looking at a breakout failure. It did take some time. It was something that we were cautious of early on, right? And it actually took quite some time for us to come back in here, doing a lower high there on the Qs, and SPY just basically a double top there. So market looking pretty bearish. Okay, so going into tomorrow, expect rallies to get sold. Okay, all right, so we did see that this hourly was not really acting right if it were going to become bullish, and so now switching to a bearish bias. So just understand that when I go over the market and I'm saying this needs to hold, or needs to do this kind of setup for us to have a bias, it's not that necessarily it has to do one thing or the other, or that I want one thing or the other to happen. But in order for, if it does this, right, then we'll have a bullish bias. Perhaps that's the better way to phrase it, right? So, because even on a bearish day like today, which was pretty weak, you can just kind of from an objective standpoint, pretty bearish, there still were things to be played long. And even on bullish days, right, we'll play things short. So, it's not uncommon for that to happen, because when something shows us that it's on its own page, that's usually when I want to go after it. One that I really wished I'd gone after was this VHC. A little bit on the thin side, not that commonly, or not that liquid of stock. I don't know if I've ever even played this before, but look at these buy setups, right? And this was a nice, if you watched yesterday's video or you were in the coaching session, there was a nice, we're talking about technique 2, where it came right to the pullback, right to the VWAP, and then off it went. I think it was around 565, the VWAP in the morning. And so it came and tested it once, and then from there, never looked back. So very, very nice. So, even on bearish days, we can find things long. Even on bullish days, we'll find things short. So, it's not that I'm permanently only trying to trade one side or the other, right? It's just if we are going to get a time frame alignment, I think is more what I was looking for. If we get time frame alignment, a clear market bias, right? But so far, it's been very sloppy, and actually has now gone into a bearish bias for us, okay, going into tomorrow. All right, quick recap on the NIO here. All right, this was the play on the NIO, 150 by 145, just a 5-cent stop, very tight stop here on the NIO, as it was going to break out over this bar here. So I liked the 5-minute setting up this consolidation here, like the 15-minute. So those I thought were just okay, not perfect. And then already had a big move in the morning, which is why I wasn't as aggressive on any of the initial pullbacks. But what I really liked was the daily. gap down, multiple bars down, and then we got this strategy, which I started playing in 2017. It's my most accurate strategy, but it doesn't show up as often as pro gaps. So pro gaps still make more money overall, but this is my most accurate. And so the NIO gap down to new lows and immediately got bought, right? So anybody who was in this short, and that's who's been making money on this, or any longs that finally gave it up, they saw this, right, immediately rally. There were no more sellers, right? And so this reversed hard. Shorts were underwater. Longs who thought they had the bottom now have to get back in, or they're going to miss out on this rally. So it creates a very, I think, emotional moment for traders involved with this. And so this kind of hard reversal is something that I want to play along with. Okay, so this is where we got in over this topping tail here on the 15, 150, with a stop down here underneath the bar, 145. Okay, it did take some time for us to get to our target, which was 160. We were able to kind of overreach it a little bit. Actually, yeah, I think the front and the back both were able to make a little bit more, but you can see here was the run. So we actually got in it here, waited and waited and waited, and finally got the follow through there. Now, one thing about this, I think that's very, very clear, is that this is what the NIO was doing, right? Can't come off the highs. What was the Qs doing all morning? Downtrend, 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 right? So this told me that it didn't matter whether the market was going to be neutral, bullish, bearish. This NIO was going to be bought, right? Given the circumstance, even in a bearish market, this was going to be bought, that perhaps the bottom had been put in. So, it was kind of funny. I was in a coaching session yesterday, and I was going over the strategies, and I mentioned the gap bully. He says, oh, I don't, and then my coaching student said, I don't know what the gap bullies, the gap bearies are. And I was like, okay, well, and so we went over them, talked about what happens, what it does to traders, why they get the kind of follow through that they do. And I said, well, it's been a few weeks since I've called one. It's been quite a while. And so, ironically enough, this NIO came up, ended up being a nice gap bully. So gap down, we want to see them break the support so that they look like a gap down that's going to follow through, and then reverse hard, and then we play along with the trend. So that was the NIO today. And so, like I said, it's not that, I have to have a bullish or bearish market in order to trade. It's just that, the sloppiness in the market does make it a little bit harder to have a bias, especially what we got in August. But either way, we're going to find our trades, right? And so I think there were a lot of things probably that you could have shorted today, but this NIO was unique enough. So that was the play that I thought was worth calling. Okay, so keep in mind going into tomorrow, all right, rallies should be shortable. We are going to a bearish bias tomorrow. So we'll see kind of what the fallout is as we continue, as the recent rally here didn't really have a lot of legs. So we are back into this area, which is when we left it, we identified. If we come back in, it's not going to be a good sign, especially for the larger picture on the Qs here. Okay, that's not a very healthy, bullish looking weekly. Monthly looks like it still could recover, but especially the daily, the weekly, the hourly, more and more are starting to point a lower, and not just lower maybe for the hours and days, but could be much longer than that. Okay, but we'll monitor it as it goes going into tomorrow. Bearish bias, all right, and we'll see what the market does. All right, hope you have a good evening. Hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow, and I will talk to you then. Have a good evening.